Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Preschool All-Stars podcast. I'm Bethany Johnson, and I'm joined today by Katherine DeLaRosa. How are you doing today, Katherine?
I'm doing great. How are you, Bethany?
I'm awesome. I can't wait to hear about what you got going on. I know you were transitioning from online to local, so I want to hear all about that. But first, give me a little backstory. What's your background?
So I have worked for years in childcare, and then I started at a little tiny daycare here. I live in the Seattle area.
Okay.
So this area called Bellevue, and I started at this little tiny hole in the wall daycare doing infant care, and then got moved to be a toddler teacher. And I just kind of the processes ended up a few years down the road. The door opened for me to go into a Montessori preschool, and I ended up loving it. And so that's kind of where I've been at teaching preschool for it's probably been about 10 years or so, but like 14, 15 years altogether. So
Awesome. What draws you to Montessori?
I've always wanted to be a teacher ever since I was little. And I actually, long story, I went to a local college here to learn about education. I wanted to get my teaching certificate, and I was thinking more like elementary school. And then it kind of just like ended up going a completely different direction. And the Montessori, I actually didn't know much about it, but it's just like a hands-on learning style. The classroom, it's a little different than some preschools where the classrooms are filled with like centers and the different activities you rotate around doing them. Instead, it's just like walls filled with shelves and different like trays and baskets and activities. And the children just kind of are able to pick whatever they want. You can guide them. But I remember when I first went there, I was just so shocked that the children were doing such advanced work, but it wasn't like a pressured environment. It was like they were able to go to what they were ready for. If they wanted help with something, they could ask a teacher, and they can kind of take them step by step into more learning, basically. So it was just a wonderful experience all around. I loved it. And so I ended up taking the Montessori training and becoming a teacher, and growing in that over the years, as you learn to teach little ones. So
Yes, absolutely. I love everything I've seen about Montessori. I haven't delved deeper, but I love, like with my son, I try and use a lot of Montessori toys. I just love that. I love the whole concept of it. So how did you find joy?
I being a teacher for so long, I kind of have been in a place where I'm like, man, I want to like either get into management or do my own preschool, but I just want to grow more. I've taught for so long, and I'm kind of used to the normal days. So with all the COVID, everything changed, and we're doing online preschool and all those different things. And actually, I worked at a really wonderful Montessori school. I loved it. I had the best principals, vice principals, even staff. Like, we had the best place. But basically, my principal got to the place where she was going to retire, and then everything was shifting, and some of the management that was going in, I just knew I get along with everyone, but I was just like, I just don't feel like this is going to be the place for me anymore. And I was sitting in the classroom on like a 15-minute break looking at Facebook, and there popped Joy's advertisement. I was like, ooh.
Oh, it's crazy. She always pops up at
She
the
just
most
pops up at the right time. And
time.
I was just like, oh my gosh, this is just destiny, I felt like. And I just applied right away, got the book, because I was literally looking to either get a new job. I was talking to I've always wanted to have my own preschool, but I just felt like I needed to wait the timing of, all the different pieces coming together. And so, I got the book and just went through it so quickly. And I was like, this is amazing. This makes it so easy. Like, I'm so excited. And so I guess I got that almost a little over a year ago, because it was maybe it was spring 2000, is that right? 221. And
Okay.
but I actually am a member at a church. I've talked to my pastors about starting a preschool. We had just literally gotten a brand new, beautiful building. So I was like, oh, this is amazing. We have a
Perfect.
building, I have a book, kind of, I felt like all the ducks were in a row. And I went and talked to them, and they were kind of like, we're not even ready. Like, we need security, we need this, we need that. And then I was like, well, me and my husband actually works with athletes. He's been a coach and like kind of like a teacher for years, but he works with teenagers. So where we live, housing is so expensive. And we happen to live in the mother-in-law apartment of my parents' home, which is wonderful because it feels like you have your own home, but you're not paying this ridiculous price. So,
Mhm.
and it's like so strategic to everything we do. So we talked about, doing it or moving, and he just was like, I don't feel it. No, no, no. And I was like, no, like all these hopes and dreams all of a sudden
Yeah.
like kind of got stopped. And then, but I really feel like it was the right thing, because amazingly enough, listening to all of Joy's teaching, and this is not daycare, this is a preschool. Well, I ended up getting a job at a Montessori school that for like maybe 20 years or something had been daycare. And so, I knew I was at this really nice Montessori school. So I knew it was not going to be the same, but I kind of felt it was a transition season, and I felt like that was the next step. So anyways, I go to this school. It is like the best thing I ever did, but it was the most difficult year I ever had teaching.
Why was that?
Just, um, what I realized was how much it was, even though you say it's Montessori, a lot of the steps they did to take when the new owner bought it and wanted to make it Montessori because that was her dream. There, she just wasn't able to really get it. I would say the chassis, it's on the chassis of a daycare, but it has Montessori things in the classroom. But a
Yeah.
lot of the administration and the function of it, there wasn't like a lot of teacher planning time. Part of it's COVID. So like, COVID made a really big difference. But in reality, the school had not really transitioned into like a Montessori preschool. And so
Right.
there was a lot of things there just I had never experienced. One of the big things, I basically had like 8 to 9 children that were not potty trained that entered my classroom on the September or whatever day it was. And I was like, oh, oh my
Yeah.
God,
So with the first place you worked, was that like a half day preschool or was that all day as well?
full day. Yeah, full
Okay.
day Montessori with childcare before and after. So it was
Okay.
a well-oiled machine. So
Mhm. So there, I know that there's, the teachers get certified in Montessori through their training programs, but then I also know there's a lot of like you're saying, daycare type stuff that claims to be Montessori, but like isn't what are it like accredited or whatever the word would be
yeah,
for Montessori.
accreditation would be the best. Like basically the teachers have to be accredited, and then the school itself has to be accredited that it's kind of hitting all the different marks. So that's the thing. I think because it's such a great system, and if it is basically the way that you are geared towards learning or you want to teach children, it's a phenomenal system. But it is really expensive with the different like training, then all the materials are there's nice wood hands, they're
Yeah.
beautiful materials. And so all of that just makes it super expensive. So I think a lot of people that don't have the ability to do the whole thing, they just do bits and pieces, which is
Right.
awesome because
Yeah.
it's a great way to teach children. So
Mhm.
yeah, so I just learned a lot of things that now it was challenging season for me, but I'm so glad I did it, because now I feel like I can talk to parents and be like, hey, we're going to do it this way and this is why. There's a reason why we do ABCD. So
Right.
so
So
yeah.
were you able to, in that environment, like, were you able to kind of take control and make things more like legit? Or when you say you learned a whole lot, was it that you learned how to adapt to different environments and speak to parents in different ways?
I think more like really like looking to like have my own preschool or run my own preschool. More really the administrative part of it is.
Okay.
I don't feel like all the classroom was generally loaded with all of the Montessori things. They weren't lacking the materials. It's just like staffing and even like the breaks. They really did it to cater more to the parents and their schedule. Like, oh, if we don't give the parents what they want, then we're going to lose the parents because they really need like holidays covered or whatever. But because they did that, there weren't a lot of like teacher prep days. There wasn't a lot of planning time. So and like even like breaks, there were really no spring breaks, and staffing was so low you couldn't take one if you wanted. So a lot of the things to actually like prepare lessons, get ahead, you couldn't do. And yeah, so it was just the system, I don't feel like was set up to facilitate a Montessori teacher. It was more just, and even just some of the things like I've never had like an iPad in the classroom except for like maybe you put on a video really quick for something to, lend in the education. Well, I had children coming in my class who had basically, because a lot of it I would say is really COVID, honestly. But because we're low staff, we're trying to make ends meet, whatever. I had children that were coming in classroom, they couldn't like literally read a story with me and keep their concentration because they're so used to watching like Paw Patrol in another
Yeah.
classroom.
Yeah.
And I had never like, usually, by a month or two, everybody can sit in the circle and read the book. I couldn't get them to read a story for months. It was like just to work on that console. I just be like, okay, guys, we're done. We're done with this.
Yeah,
So
totally. Absolutely. So, okay. So it was the hardest year, but you learned a lot about what you wanted your school to be and then the admin side and just how to work things going for your school. So then you left there and what happened
yeah,
from there?
yeah, it's actually amazing because I actually was praying and I just felt really strong in my heart. I was like, I feel like I need to start this school, but because like there's so much work to do at this, like they just need all hands on deck and then some. I was like, there's no time for me to go home like an hour early and start working on things slowly and, prepare for September. And I was like, I just need like a nanny. That's what was in my spirit. At least I need like a nanny job, something to transition that's easy. I can make a little money, but I can work all summer. And
Mhm.
I'm not even joking you. I got a phone call like the next day out of nowhere and like, hey, would you ever consider nannying? And I
My
was like,
God.
I would consider nannying. I was like, my one requirement has to be in this area because I didn't want to be driving far. And literally, it was like 5 minutes from where I needed to be. And I was like, this
Wow.
couldn't be more perfect. And the thing that's really amazing is at that exact same time, I got a phone call of someone who wanted to invest into a Montessori preschool. So
What?
like I know, like it was like literally like step after miracle after step. Just and it's funny for me. I went to church and my pastor was like a whirlwind is going to take you and move from one season to the next. He just prayed over me. He's like, I see it's like going to just go. Psh. And that's literally what happened. It was like, I gave my 2 weeks, I moved, I like hauled all my stuff out of the classroom. And before I knew it, everything was just going, going, going. So the lady who had offered to basically, they wanted to like invest into the preschool. We started doing Zoom meetings once a week. She'd do a bunch of work, I'd do a bunch of work, and we'd meet up next week and kind of collaborate. So it's been a
Wow.
little bit of a wild ride to say the least. So on my journey, I guess because I've always had a heart to have the preschool involved with my church. That's kind of where the brakes came on because I was ready to go, the lady was ready to go, but basically the church was not quite ready. And so we kind of got to September feeling like it's going to go, we're good. And then all these different things kind of like came in the way and blocked it. And so basically, all summer I had started once I got a hold of Joy's materials, I got everything set up to do online. So I immediately, as soon as I got everything set and did the 7-day challenge and all that, started doing online. And then I did a few like children at my house for a while just to like in the meantime. So kind of the goal has always been to move it into the church. It's like a beautiful big facility with everything you could really want. I mean, there's a lot to build, but the
Mhm.
actual like space is really nice. So it's kind of been waiting on the process of kind of working as a team with those that are there. And then with this lady who's offered to actually like help support it financially. So
Wow. That is so cool to have that. Where did this lady hear about you?
she actually is from the church.
Okay.
It's so she like yeah, so she's seen me around. She's basically had COVID babies. So she has like a little 3-year-old and a little like 2-year-old, and they're so sweet, but they're African, and I have a lot of African friends. With COVID, they like did not come out at all for COVID. And when they come out, everybody's wearing masks and like they're just like very to themselves for quite a long time. And I just was not like that, especially being a preschool teacher. You're like,
Mm.
you're out in the mix of things. So anyways, once everything, they started coming back to church, I started seeing them as when she approached me. So
That's so
and
cool.
it's amazing because I actually, for like the last 5 years, I've kind of been on this journey where I've been kind of learning about the love of the father, like being a son in like a family, or like a son or a daughter, and like the spirit of adoption. And so I kind of like talked to her about this. I had a lot of like intense experiences regarding that. And she was like, and so I was like, it was kind of showing her my vision for the school and what's in my heart. And she goes, She goes, that's amazing. She was like, I don't know. She said, like 8 years ago, me and my husband, we got this word. We were in a church service and someone said that God wanted to use them to finance a children's ministry, but the ministry would be called the Father's House. And I was like, what? It's like
Wow.
ridiculous. And she's like, we've been looking on the internet for where like we can invest our money. And she's like, and everywhere we looked, it just didn't click. It didn't feel like it was the right thing. And so even for me, I was like, that is amazing, because that's my heart, is that children would come to a place where they feel like they're loved of the Father, that they're protected, they're provided for, they're safe, that they can be taught, and they can actually even be disciplined. And it's okay. Like, it's okay to be disciplined because that's love, but of course, in a gentle, caring way. But yeah, so it's just like, it's been quite a process. It's been quite challenging, I would say. And I'm used to being in the classroom. So give me a bunch of children and a classroom, I'm good to go. That's my comfort zone. But I've been doing so much with Joy's materials, like, getting on the internet, being online, going through, like, the fact that I built my own website is like, I was like, this is
Yeah,
amazing, because that's
totally.
definitely my weakness. I can put YouTube videos on for the children, pick a song, like I can do everything simple, but building a website, that's not what I've like invested my life in. I've invested my
Right.
life into families and children. So it's been, when I built my own website, I was like, wow, this is so cool.
Totally. Yeah. So
Yeah.
you're just learning, you're soaking up everything you can for the admin side.
Yes,
Absolutely.
learning.
So how did it go with the online? You're not doing the online anymore right now?
No, there was just too much going on. I basically was still nannying for the family in the mornings, and in the afternoon I do like all of my like admin work, all of the stuff that Joy has on the internet. I'd come home and work on that. And then I would add in the online classes. So then we what was it? November, we started doing like in person at the church. So basically it's just a few families from the church for now. We haven't really advertised. We're still setting up all the programs. So we just don't want to invite anyone in that's not kind of like part of our family until actually like we have all of our ducks in a row and all the documents and stuff like that. So that's kind of where we're at working on that. But it's been amazing. I mean, the online was really good. I had experience previously at when COVID hit. Just by the blessing of God, I had 12 children in my class that showed up every day for for months when we were in lockdown. And everyone didn't know what it was going to be like, or just like, is this going to work? I don't know. It worked amazing. I mean, my group, we loved it. And I feel like people were going through so much depression and hardship and all these things. And every day I woke up and I got to spend time with my children, which was so, like it felt like I was home, even though I wasn't. And, as a teacher, I feel like, and for me, because I am involved in my church, I'm always out and on the go. So it was a cool season for me. I was home and I was with my children. And so the when I did the online preschool this time, it wasn't the same because I had like 5 children instead of like 12. And I think the big thing for me was I had already developed such a relationship with all the children, and they were so obedient. Like they would sit there, and if I talked, because I had already built this relationship when I talked to them, it was just like, easy. The one thing I did find starting on my own was I had a family, very sweet family. But one of the boys, I don't know if he is maybe on the spectrum just a little bit, but just like some learning difficulties. And so I felt bad mostly because like I felt like the parent was being very vulnerable. Like normally when you have a classroom and you have a child, whatever it might be, like maybe they get angry and they might hit their friends more, or they don't listen, or whatever it might be, a behavior issue of some kind. The parent's not really there, and so it's not embarrassing to them. They might pick them up, you might talk to them, hey, we're working with Bobby with this thing, but they don't have to be embarrassed because of their child's behavior. Whereas it was interesting because he was sitting next to the boy and the boy was just like misbehaving. And because I hadn't established a relationship with the parent really either, it's kind of like I just wanted to like reach through the screen and be like, it's okay, this is normal, children go through this, like don't worry about it. So but you kind of like building that relationship. So that was new for me, like a learning curve for me to think, because I do want to do more online. I actually love it, but I'm just trying to kind of do all the different pieces right now.
Mm-hmm.
So, but that was a really good learning curve for me. If I start up again, kind of to be able to keep those things in mind and
Mm-hmm.
meet those
Yeah,
needs.
absolutely. It's very different when the parents are sitting right there watching
Sitting
everything.
right there.
And I'm always nervous, but they always love it. Like I'll get a message like that. They just think it's funny to watch, see all the kids say different things, and they like
Yeah.
watching their kid be social and participate when they don't get to see that at home. And
Yeah.
they always love it, but it definitely makes you a little nervous as a teacher for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what will your local program look like? You're opening in next month when you open?
Yeah, so that's the goal. We wanted to do like the beginning of January, but I have a feeling it might be like a weekend or so. But yeah, we're just getting so the lady who actually offered to help me, she actually like does websites. So she's gonna do like a more professional website than I could do. They just want a specific look and whatever. So I'm just letting them go with whatever they're doing. So they have like the website almost finished, and like as soon as we launch the website, then we're going to start advertising. So I've been reading through all the Joy's books about advertising and the different things. So kind of getting geared up for that step.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, we're starting with 5 children. And
what's your class schedule?
We're going to do, so in Washington State, you can have up to 4 hours of childcare that's not licensed.
Okay.
So we're going to work towards doing full day or semi classes, but we can't do that till we get the whole licensing process done.
So you'll have like half day classes, half day class. Okay.
So yeah, we're going to do 9 to 1 to start with.
Cool. And so will you serve lunch or anything there, since it's kind of in the lunch time?
We actually haven't even talked about that. I have a feeling we're going to bring lunch if we do that. We're still working through the process. I'm literally like pulling up all the staff handbook, we're putting together all those so that we can kind of make all the rules. So
are you going to start out with any employees, or will it be you at first until enrollment grows?
Yeah, it's going to be me. And then there's one other gal that I've been working with. Actually, I got her a job at the last school I worked with. So I'm familiar with working with her. And at the same time, literally the day in November, we said we were starting the school, she quit her other job.
Oh, really?
And I was like, okay, well, apparently you're supposed to be part of this one. So yeah, she's been doing some small side jobs until we kind of get everything officially going. But yeah, 2 to start with.
So because I don't have a lot of people who are like, I have an investor for my preschool. So I'm interested to hear the dynamic of how that works. So are you both how does the ownership work and the pay and that type of relationship with an investor? I have no idea how that works.
Yeah, that's kind of been the juggling piece of it all. Honestly, I think we've kind of come to the conclusion we're going to do the ownership through the church. Okay. That's kind of been a little bit of the tricky part, and that I'll probably be the principal at this point, just to keep it. Basically, the company that they're working for, they will double everything that they donate. And so that's kind of been part of the piece we've been working with, is they have a certain amount of money that they would like to donate towards the school, but they also want to get it matched through this program.
Oh, so the investor said that they would double anything. You mean, okay. And what's the program? Is this a separate program from the church, or is this with the program of the church that they're raising money for it?
Separate program from the church. Is through the company they work for.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, so they basically do a matching program. So that's been a bit of the piece, especially for the Montessori. To me, it's a huge answer to prayer, because Montessori is so expensive, and that's really my comfort zone and what I'm used to. I know that I can do without all of the materials, but when you're used to it, it's just a little bit harder.
Yeah. So have you looked on Marketplace to get stuff secondhand too?
Yeah, that I have. I'm dealing with different pieces. Basically, some of the people we're working with, they want new. So we're going for new. Yeah.
Oh,
so
that's
I know
hard.
there's a lot of things. So basically when originally I was going to go towards, working towards my own preschool, I actually purchased a bunch of things for my classroom, because I've been at a few different schools and kind of built a collection, but generally I've always built it through the school's finances. The schools that I work worked for, like gave a lot of finances, but then once you build it, it stays there in the classroom.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I've done that a few times now, just with like moving, there for like 4, 5, 6 years, and then I have to move, and then I have to go to a new school. So
Yeah. What about like grants and stuff? There may be grants that you can look into for like women-owned businesses and stuff to get money for.
no,
That's hard if they want everything new though, because it's expensive, and you can find it so great secondhand. My whole classroom is secondhand.
I know. It's like a teacher's world. I try to talk sometimes, but there's just certain things,
Yeah.
So
how is it when you thought about like opening your own preschool and all the dreams you had of that? How is it like different, better or worse or both working with now you're not the only say, so now you have a bunch of different people that have different opinions when you're the classroom teacher, but how does that, but you also need the money and the support in different ways. So how is that dynamic different, good and bad?
Yeah, I would say the biggest thing of that, it just kicks in for my relationship with God, because I honestly, ever since I started working with children, one of the things I just feel like is that I get a lot of like dreams that'll be like super accurate, right on to like what I'm supposed to be doing, or even like things going on in my classroom with the children. So that's always just been a gift that's helped me along the years. And I think naturally, you like want your own business, you want this, you've dreamed about it. And then I just will like get this dream that'll be like super clear about, this is the way I want you to go. This is like the path I have for you. And it's so clear you can't even deny it. So it's kind of like, for me, it's been more of a dying to myself and what's better for the team and what's better for the community, honestly.
Yeah.
And so it's been a little bit of a, put Katherine on hold and really do what's better for everyone. And that's been a little challenging.
I mean, you had so many signs that were like, like the day after, you're like, I want to invest. You're like, well, I can't ignore that. But then
exactly.
There's just strings that come along with that. But it's an interesting dynamic, I'm sure. And I think it probably will take it, like, it's humbling, because you have to set your thoughts aside.
Yes. But it's good because I think even like, at least from just, reading the Bible and different things like that, one thing it does talk about is like that, when we're in a community or in a church, that it's like, we're like a body. And I think, God has like gifted me with a lot of abilities to work with children. And that's what I bring to the table, the experience and all of that kind of stuff. But some of the people that I'm working with, they have like gifts that, I don't even come close to having. So as we bring those together and work as a team, like the whole is better if I let go,
Yeah.
So,
totally.
and I actually had watched, I jumped ahead and watched one of Joy's, like basically how you're like an owner, you're a teacher, and you're an administrator. And she was like, and talking about how you have to hand those different pieces off, like as you get into the different thing, and like letting go is hard. And I was like, hard. So I was gleaning from the teachings, I was like, yeah, that's so true, because you are so used to the way you want it, the way you've done it. And then all of a sudden a different idea comes in and you're like, this might not be the way I thought.
Yeah, it's so hard. That's definitely the hardest part, is like letting go of the way I want to do things and compromising. And it's different. It's different when you're working with other people, but it can be great. Like you said, like they have totally different skill sets that you would struggle with, and they can build that part of it and you can do your part of it, as long as you're able to thrive in your area and they're able to thrive in their area. It can be a great partnership. Totally.
And I think too, it's just like, also like, looking at it, it's like, if I started in my home, I know I just believe like the gift that's in me, and that by the grace of God that it will all work out and I'll have a wonderful school. But like, really, because I've just like, kind of like served in other people's schools for so many years, and watching, how people run their admin and all that kind of stuff. It's like, I just think, I'm like, man, it's like such a huge blessing, because most people don't get this like huge facility right off the bat.
Right.
Like, and I don't have to work towards it. They don't get like this person that's super expert in every kind of like internet. Like, that's my weakness. So if I let go, then I think I can move faster than if I hold on and try to do it on my own.
Absolutely. So, yeah, that's a really unique opportunity that you have going on, because especially from, what I normally get to interview, because most of us are starting off in our house. And I was going to say, because we would love to, our next house, because right now the preschool's in our garage, to have like an in-law suite attached to it that we can run that out of. Do you think that would be a good dynamic, to have an in-law suite as your preschool?
We actually live out in, it's called Woodinville, but it's in the Seattle area. It's in the suburbs. And we have this like beautiful, like pasture land behind us. And I literally was just thinking, I'm like, maybe I'll do this. And maybe one day, like, I'll start like something on my own. Montessori is so like, it can be so intimate. Like you can have like this huge, like the biggest Montessori school I worked for was like 16 classrooms, and the
Wow.
thing worked like a clock. It was like an amazing school. I loved it. Then I worked for this other school that's actually like a Montessori training center, and they built it on an old farm. They
Mm,
had like 4 classes, but it was like so homey, and like they had like apple orchard outside, and like,
wow.
like such a beautiful place for a child to learn and grow. And I was like literally thinking we could like build little like schoolhouse out there and like turn the
Totally.
mother on. I mean, you could do a lot. So sky's the limit. You never know. The best
Yeah.
is yet to come. So
How long does Montessori certification take for a teacher?
the in my community, you can do it 2 ways. It's usually like a year-long program. So I took the like speedy 9 to 5, 8 hours a day summer program. So it was like 2 months or something like that. And then we did classes, like we basically did a internship, and then like every few Saturdays you do a class. But they also do like a year-long program where it'd be like, because every like teachers aren't making a lot of money, and so to do any kind of program, it's a stretch usually for time and money. And
Hmm.
so the training is also offered, like I think they do like a Tuesday, Thursday for a year. So
Okay.
yeah, generally a year program, but a couple different. And I know now like everything is so online. I know there's a bunch of people that do it online. I just don't know how those go. But the
Yeah.
one thing I would say about Montessori is such a hands-on program. Nothing about it's difficult. It's just sitting there going through simple lessons on how the different things work and what the
Hmm.
ideas about how they work, what she intended for them. So
So you can kind of learn it on your own if you don't, and then put that into your classroom without being accredited and run
yeah,
it like that if you're willing to put the work in by yourself. I definitely want to take more, I want to learn more about it and incorporate more into my classroom, but I also just don't have the time to go to it through a
I know,
certification
right?
program. So
Yeah.
it would just be, I think I could, you could give and take different parts anyways, as long as, you're not selling it as what it's not, something it's not.
Yeah. I think like the general concepts, it's like basically they work on independence a lot, like the
Mhm.
child, like teaching them so many things that normally we do for children, like easily. So, teaching them like one of the things is you take your coat, you like put it on the floor backwards, and you put your hands in and flip it over. So they all put their coats on by themselves. They try to learn how to
Mhm.
zip them, instead of cleaning up after a child, having all that kind of material in your classroom. So if they spill, like, hey, let's clean it up. If they can't do it, okay, well, let's do it together. But
Mhm.
they have like a basket of rags, like a little broom and dustpan, and they go over and do it themselves. So, but a lot of it is, I would say the biggest thing is the hands-on. So, like for example, the first teacher that I worked with in Montessori, well, like for a year long, I was kind of covering when I got the job originally, a mom that was on maternity leave. But then I went into a full year classroom with this gentleman. It was just such an amazing, like 2 years. You don't have a lot of like male teachers in
Yeah.
preschool. There's a few, but not very many. And he was just one of those is amazing. Like literally, they had like 16 classrooms, and all of the families would come to try to be in his classroom. And then they like filled the other classroom because he
Yeah.
was so well known.
That's
So,
awesome.
but yeah, just a lot of like that's what I was going. His son was a mathematician. And so one thing about the Montessori is they'll do like everything's wood. So it's like really beautiful, nice materials. But like for the numbers, they're sandpaper numbers on like a wood, piece
Yeah.
of whatever. But the whole idea is the child's like tracing the numbers, and then you're always having objects to go with the numeral. So you're learning that this is a number one, but a one has a one bead.
Mm,
Or like even
mhm.
they have something called a spindle box, which is really cool. So they have all these little boxes with the numbers, and this basket of like spindles is like a stick. So, anyways, you put one in your hand and you feel it, and then you're like, this is one spindle, put it in the box. Then you put two spindles in your hand. This is two, put it in the box. Well, then you take like if you want to compare numbers like greater than, less than, you can teach them at a really young age what that is, but they
Yeah.
feel it with their hands. So you put 3 in one hand maybe and like 6 in the other and have them close their hand. This is 3,
Mm,
this is 6, which one is greater? And they're
right.
feeling the numbers. So the kind of idea is that it's like a hands-on way of learning, and they're going to do everything that way. And eventually, when they get to elementary school, they're going to do the abstract in their
Right.
mind
Yeah.
thinking, but as a child, they touched it with their hands. Even to the fact of like we do like in preschool skip counting, right? 5, 10, 15, 20, or whatever, 2 by 2, 4, 6, 8. Well, they have these long bead chains. Every chain has also like a cube or a square. And when you take like 2, 4, 6, 8 and you square it, the square is like 2 squared, 4 squared. It's actually
Mm,
beads. So when they get into the high school and they're squaring numbers, they're like, oh my gosh, I touched a square and I touched a cube, like 6 squared. I touched it as a child. So
yeah. Yeah.
actually the math is phenomenal. It's
That's
really
amazing because
cool.
I've been struggling with the math. I think I feel like I'm really solid with literacy, but math
Mm,
I struggle with. And I
yeah,
think that would really help me. I'm going to look into some Montessori math stuff because that sounds exactly what they need. I mean, we know that they need tactile learning. We know they need to,
right,
learn through touch and play and all that. So
right.
that's awesome.
The one thing that was really amazing, I just told you that I was amazed that children can learn, because I mean, the first classroom I walked into, they're like, 6-year-olds reading high levels. And I was like really shocked. So a lot of that is learning the phonics and all that. But for the math, they have these things called golden beads. So you have like, and you can find it online in like plastic stuff, but they're like these nice golden beads. So there's a unit bead, there's a 10 bar, there's 100 square, and 1,000 cube. So you basically present like this is what it is and this is the number it represents.
Hmm.
Then they have a whole nother set that's actually like wooden. So you have the beads, like the unit bead, the 10 bar, but then they'll have like the square that is made out of wood and the square that is made, or the cube that's made out of wood. And so you initially show them how to make big numbers. So you can give them the actual numeral, then they can go get the numbers with the cubes and the beads. But then like these little children can do like 4-place addition, 4-place subtractions because they're doing it
Wow.
with beads. It's
Yeah.
like, you're like, what? And they love it because once you like kind of take them, the whole thing also about Montessori is like step by step. So if at first you're just teaching them numerals, you're teaching them that this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and there's a bead that goes with it. Then you
Hmm.
teach them teens, then you teach them hundreds. And when you get to that, it's like they're so excited to learn. It's not for, and that's the thing is you're not pushing it on anyone. You're like,
Right.
oh my gosh, do you want to do something new? And they're like, yeah,
Yeah, totally.
so it's really cool.
All about how you present it with the little
Yeah.
ones. Yeah, totally. So how has being part of the preschool all-stars helped you along this journey? I mean, you're getting ready to actually launch it all. How
Yeah.
has being part of the group helped you?
I think it's just like the support more than anything, like being in the school, I'm like, I've seen how schools run, like I've been around this is like my niche. But then just the practical of like having lists of things, having classes and all the different, like really the step by step. I mean, it's just been, I mean, it's kind of like having someone walk up to you and say, do you want me to invest in your school? Yes, I do. Do you want me to teach you how to do admin and business? Yes, I do. So yeah, it's been awesome. Really, really
Awesome.
great.
And where would you see yourself in 5, 10 years, ideally, with your school?
Uh, man, part of it, I would say is my walk with the Lord is, when I first started at that little tiny daycare, I literally, it was like, I would never send my children there. It was just the economy crashed. I was working at this other job. This job opened. It was going to be a supplementary job. And I just got an eye into childcare.
Yeah.
But literally this little place had nothing. And the big thing, this is just my personal conviction, but the big thing for me was, and I didn't grow up in the church. I didn't grow up talking about God or Jesus or anything like that. It all was like another big long story I could tell you. But my big passion is that when God's presence is in any childcare, whether you have all the bells and whistles you could ever ask for, or whether you literally have nothing, his presence is sufficient for you. It can make having some sticks and some balls and crayons enough. And that's the initial lesson that the first 3 years of childcare, I had to learn. as just how God's presence is. And I would spend a lot of time fasting and praying and really welcoming the presence of God. The presence of God brings joy and peace and healing and solutions and light. And so for me, that has been my big thing. And any way I can give that experience, not even like telling people the Bible, not even telling people Jesus. Yes, that's my personal passion. But really, if I can set up a place where God's presence is resting and families can find a safe haven and children can learn, that's my dream. So that, as much as I can expand that by God's grace, that's where I see myself in 5 to 10 years.
Awesome. Well, that's very broad. That could end up anywhere. If you're, if that's your goal, then you could build it into anything if that's what you're shooting for, because you already have that passion for that. So you're going to be able to do that no matter how big or small or intimate or large a setting you make it.
Yeah. If like practicality, I kind of like, I don't know, 16 classes, but like I would love to like build the school and like Joy has build multiple, if that's the path. It's kind of like, I have
hard to know. You just opened.
You know what I mean? Yeah, I have dreams in my heart and I want to help families. That's the big thing. And if I can multiply it and help lots of families, great. And if that's not the path for me, that's okay. I'll get there when I get there. So
absolutely. And what would you say to anyone who is thinking about embarking on the same type of path, or is even thinking about the investor thing? Because I think you're the first person who's really done that. So any words of wisdom for anyone who might be like thinking about starting on the same type of path that you're going down? Or encouragement, anything that you would have liked to hear when you were feeling discouraged.
I just feel like kind of endurance, just keep going, like don't give up, like a lot of the things that Joyce already says. I think the big thing for me has been patience. Like, with like working with other people, it's not as easy when you're doing it on your own. Like I have dreams, I want to do them, but like being able to work with others and like I said, like kind of be able to like work with someone who has different ideas, but they want to give me a bunch of money to help like the school. So you just like slow down and listen and work as a team. So.
Awesome. Wow. I'm excited to see what happens, because this is cool. I mean, you got some cool stuff going on, and that's really exciting. And you're like right there, you're about to open and it's about to all start. So I wish you all the best of luck, and we'll have to catch back up next year after you've been open and how you can tell us how it's going and everything else you've learned. And I'm excited to continue your journey, see what happens, see where you end up.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Yeah. I can't wait to check
for
back
talking
with
to me.
you.
Absolutely. And good luck with everything.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.
If you loved today's episode, then you are going to love this. I want to give you a free gift in your hands. This is a copy of my book, Start Your Preschool, and I want to get it to you for free. Yes, I said for free. It is a 300-page book. It'll help you learn the step-by-step process to actually starting your local or your online preschool. Every single step that I walked myself through, as well as the thousands of women who've created their own successful preschools, have gone through the exact steps listed in this book. Not to mention, I also share 20 amazing women's stories, so you can see how not only did it work for me, but it works for amazing women just like you as well. I want to get you this free copy. Just go to freepreschoolbook.com or click the link in the description and we'll get it to you today. Again, just go to freepreschoolbook.com and we'll get it right to you.